Traders, welcome back to the channel. We're going over the SP 500 and the Nasdaq 100, exactly what's happening on the market. We're going to break down exactly how we are moving. We had a big dip this morning. We're going to talk about exactly what is taking place as we speak. So let's get to it. Now, when we look at what's happening, let's talk about, what happened yesterday. We had the Microsoft earnings. And before we even dive into exactly where we're at now, I want to talk about how we moved prior with those at the time of making yesterday's video. Now, when we look here, we can see yesterday, right in the after hour, we start pushing up. You can see here on the 2 hour, we'll go something a little bit lower, like the 15 minutes, so you can get a better, viewpoint of this. You can see we start pushing up from, the earnings, right? Everyone knows beginning of the earnings, Microsoft was up. Now, what did we say in yesterday's video when that happened, right? What did we say in that video? Because I have to make videos here a little bit earlier, but what did we say from that point? Go watch the video. Go watch it. We said in the video, if Microsoft's earnings call goes bad, the actual call after they release the data, this could start being wiped out. Now, as we dive into this, you see the Nasdaq push up to almost actually 212,000. One of our targets, we push down even further when we start coming back down. The big news here was their cloud system. That was the big thing. If you know anything about Microsoft, they're not really about some of the bigger sales aspects that they've been focused on the past few years. They're moving more into cloud-based and then obviously the new AI systems, but they can't give any information or sales input on that right now. Now, their cloud sales were down, and that's when you started to see Microsoft just started to get slammed. And then you can see we started coming back down. And that's where we kind of open up the trading day, right? So right about here, 8:30, this is when markets open. We push down immediately, and then what happens? Something very similar to what we see frequently is buyers step in and push you back up. And what we need to look at from this right now, in my opinion, is the strength of what's happening. Now, when we look at what's happened over the past few weeks, again, what I want to do is go to the 2 hour chart to give you the best visual. This is essentially since December 29th, and you've just been in a clear-cut upside channel. And really, you can say this channel really started to when you actually get that bounce at 11.3, like we talked about yesterday. Now, we started moving on from there. However, I'm going to go into a little bit more of what's happening here, but on this channel, we like to be accountable. So let's talk about that. Before we get into that, I have to ask you to do two things. Like and subscribe. It helps the channel tremendously. I post videos every single day. Right, wrong, I tell you exactly what I did, how I'm moving in throughout the market, and exactly what I'm trading. And then at the end of the video, I go over some stocks that I'm liking as well into the next trading day. I'm also live on this channel every single day at 10:30 a.m. Central. Let's get to it. Now, this is very interesting, and I love to be transparent here. So what I want to do is highlight some viewpoints. Now, a few things that I said, right? What did we talk about, and what did I harp on a lot yesterday when we were looking at the charts? We talked a lot about not making any moves until markets open, right? What do we say? We always want to stay liquid in this market going into each trading day. Why? Because as you've seen throughout this trend, it's up, down, up, down. You're not getting any follow through. And if you're getting any follow through during market hours when US equities are trading live, what has been happening over the past basically 3 weeks? It's been an upside trend during those markets, right? Now, we had those puts around 11.75. We dumped down. You were up around 50%, and then we bounced back up, okay? So going from that, what's been the common denominator? During market hours, go check for yourself, Nasdaq and ES, you've heavily seen buyers taking the lead lately, specifically since this bounce right here. That's where you've seen market makers really dominate, in my opinion. And you've seen the market, and maybe not retail, but big money making most of the moves towards the upside. A lot stronger, if you will, than we had back here. And we're seeing it once again. Now, a lot of people like to comment on the channel, but I want to go over a few questions and things being said. And again, I'm not going to do this every video, but I do generally read all of your questions, all of your comments down below. I do not just say that and just ignore them, but I, again, only want to respond to real logical questions. So if you ask a question like, hey, Tyler, what would invalidate this trend? What would invalidate the upside trend? And I would say if you break back below 11.4, you make a new lower, you make a lower low here, then you flip the trend back to bearish, okay? But what did I say? If you make a higher high here above 11.75 to 11.8, you got to flip bullish, right? Remember I said that a few days ago. So let's dive into some of these questions. Now, a lot of people got upset by yesterday's video. And again, when you come to this channel, it's not about being right or being wrong. It's about helping you and showing you what I'm looking at with the market and hopefully giving you tips with trading. Now, a lot of people right here, A miss is a miss. Microsoft, everything's going down. Microsoft is going straight down. You did your video too soon. Microsoft came right back down. I'm shorting semiconductors. Let's see who right. These are very, people like to say that we were cocky here and that we're arrogant on the channel. But again, I really don't remember the last time I talked about any gains on the channel. You're right. Last week your puts, but yesterday you cut them for loss. Today you're bullish. Puts are going to print. You should have held your puts. Yeah, more, right? So that's what we're seeing. But see, what's going to happen here on specifically, and this is the dangerous part with when we talk about anything to do with stocks and the internet roughly, right? Is everyone has a voice online, but no one wants to put themselves out there. So that's why I continue to stay with my thesis right now. As you make higher lows, you still look good. Now, to answer the question regarding you should have held your puts, could I have sold them this morning and made money? No, because if we're looking at those puts, go look at the value of Qs for March 17th, which is the ones we were looking at. They would still be devalued in comparison to where they were on January 18th, on around January 23rd when we cut them, okay? Right? When we started breaking out over this point again, made a new local high, right? So we need to be viewing that as a perspective here, okay? That we need to view it from a non-biased lens. That's how I try to treat the market, right? And again, I can't be biased if I actively have no longer term swings here, okay? So when I don't have anything in the market, I don't think I really have a rhyme or reason to side with one way or the other. Now, when I was bearish, you could have argued I was biased because I was holding shorts. Obviously, I wanted to go my way. So I want to just address that now. Now, as far as going over something before earnings, now today I'm going over the market before Tesla's earnings. Again, my viewpoint is not going to change depicting on a certain news outlet that gets released unless it's really big regarding, inflation or, interest rate numbers or something fundamentally. Now, again, what did we say yesterday? Fundamentally, long term, what do we need to know here? We're bearish, right? We look at the daily chart. You're still in a daily downtrend. Now, even if you break and you are holding above this downtrend, even if you break and hold that, you still are technically in that downtrend until you can make like a higher high, like at 12.3 or 12.4, which we have said here plenty of times. So from a long, let's say 1 to 3 month time frame, which we said yesterday, we still have to look at downside potential based on the fundamentals. But that's not going to come in tomorrow, okay? I went over this on Twitter last night also. When you get fundamental news, that generally doesn't get affected into the market immediately, right? It's not an earnings call. It's not breaking news on a stock. It's slow digesting. So we have to get inflation to start going back up. And that's when I expect, if you're going to make a new low, that's when you're going to start to see that roll over, is when those inflation numbers start to peak back up. We used Australia on Twitter as a great example last night. And so that's where you are right now. So as we look at this daily candle, it's actually pretty strong. You come back down, you're bouncing back up, you're holding back over, previous highs. You still look great. Now, when we go into ES, it gets even more interesting when we look here, right? So we look here and you're holding again that key level we mentioned yesterday, 40.29. And it looks like you're going to try to hold this. Now, going into the end of the day, I expect a little bit of selling because we have news coming out today. Or tomorrow. So we have Tesla earnings today, and then tomorrow morning we're going to have GDP an hour before market open. So this is a cause for movement on the market, right? This is a cause for caution. So what do I do with this? I continue to stay liquid, right? Since we're day traders, we look to day trade throughout the day. We're not trying to swing this market because it's been very, very give and take and trying to get you in and out, in and out. You've seen a lot of traps in this market. And I believe today was a great example of a potential bear trap, right? Why? If we look at the volume that pushed us down on the trading day, very minimal, okay? Very, very minimal. So you come down on about 65 million. I would have to anticipate that we're going to get around 75, maybe 80 million at the end of the day with after hours included. If Tesla earnings go interesting and they start to move the market, I have to anticipate a little bit more volume. But last 20 minutes, I expect around 10, 12 million volume kicking in here. So around 77 overall in SPY. The daily average on that SPY volume is 82 million. So you're somewhat there. But I want to mention, though, over half of the volume so far in the day came in the first 2.5 hours of trading. Around 35, 40 million came in that time frame. And when we look at this time frame on ES, I'm going to go to SPY here to give you a better visual. We're going to go to SPY. And when you look here, and I posted this on Twitter, I was talking to everyone about this, what happened? You start to see some interesting behavior. So this was your next demand down here based on like the hourly chart, the only one you could really find. And you come down and then you bounce at 394 roughly. What is this 394 level? Now, all these levels, we've been talking about them time and time and time again, right? We don't just make them up. We've been talking about them for literally days, if not months. So what do you look at here? Again, the daily 200 SMA. It's been one of the best overall indicators on the market. And when we look here, what happens? You come right below it, you hold there for about an hour, and then boom, you reclaim and push back up. We've held it once again. So when we look at ES, we get a better visual of, S&P futures, you get an even better touch. It's basically a wick and you bounce right off of it. Then you go and look at something like, let's say, the 2 hour here. What's happening here? Now, this is an ugly example. I'm not even going to call this a flag because it is not. This is not a bull flag. That's not a bull flag because that wick right there. But nonetheless, this correction that you're seeing from here is beautiful. It's exactly what you want to see. A 1, 2, 3 retest and bounce. Now, on top of that, today you had every reason to retrace. If there was a day that sellers should have dominated, today was that day. Why? Because Microsoft reported terrible. I'm going to tell you right now. And this is shocking to me. So this is where I was wrong. I did say, and I've been saying over the past few days and weeks, if these earnings come out bad, I anticipate downside. I think it's going to be ugly. I think it's nasty. I think you stay away, okay? Just stay away from the market if these earnings are bad. However, you get these dips, even with bad earnings, and buyers step in. This is what I was talking about when we were at these lows, and this was the problem, right? And this was the problem back here when we had the first dip here. Why? You got pushed back up. Is sellers push you down initially, but there was no follow through. And what we're seeing now is follow through from buyers. They push you up, you try to get pushed back down, they hold you, and you start to push back up. Now, when we look down here, this is what we were seeing, exhaustion from sellers down here, right? You were making lower highs, but ultimately you just stagnated at lows around 3,800 on ES, and then eventually you bounced. So now again, going into tomorrow, am I saying you have to trend up? Am I saying you have to go up tomorrow? No, that is not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is I'm not going to fade the trend. I'm not going to go against what the market's telling us. We are clearly in an uptrend. Now, the one cause for concern I have is the Nasdaq. Like I said yesterday, the Nasdaq is leading this rally. Someone said that I said Nasdaq is leading the entire market on the year. It's not what I said, okay? If we look at this rally right now, I'm talking right now, like that just started from the past 3 weeks, the index that is leading us is tech, and it's Nasdaq specifically. The Dow is not leading us. The S&P is not leading us. That's why the Nasdaq made a higher high. And guess what? The ES barely made it right there. We saw Nasdaq really push up in the after hours yesterday. You only saw the ES make a higher high in the morning of that time frame, right? So you need to identify that also. And that's where we're at right now. The Nasdaq is leading us, but you're coming into a major level. The 200 SMA on the daily is right here on Nasdaq, 12,000, 12,050. I'm gonna tell you right now, this is a massive level. This is huge. I proceed with caution here. I'm gonna tell you this, and I didn't see it yesterday. I did not see this yesterday. And when we're looking at this, I'm gonna tell you right now here on the hourly or the daily time frame. When we look at this, I think you need to have a little caution. You can see that you're mounting the weekly 200 SMA, but as we look here, and again, I'm just gonna show you just so you can see here. We're gonna get rid of that. We're gonna bring this indicator back up so you can see right here the SMA. You have rejected every single touch or around this point since March 29th of this past year, okay? Big rejections nonstop. So what do you need to see here? You need to see follow through. Again, I'm going to say this as many times as possible. Again, some people, based on those comments yesterday, real confused. I don't know what they're trying to say. I don't know. I don't know. You're believing a pump, you're about to come out in a video tomorrow saying, well, I'm bearish again. Again, you can only be bearish if you make a lower low. Supply and demand 101, the end, right? This is all that takes place. It's real simple here. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, going into tomorrow, what am I looking at? You got Tesla earnings tonight. I personally, this is just a personal belief. If we look back at Tesla earnings, they have not affected the market heavily or led the market or directed us. So I don't believe Tesla is going to be the end all be all answer here. I think the more important factor is going to be GDP tomorrow morning. Now, what I will say from that, this is the projection, is a 2.6. If we look at the last projection, it's December 22nd. You came out, your forecast was a 2.9, you came out higher, 3.2. So they're projecting some downside here. Now, you just come out of forecast, I don't think it does anything. I think bulls just take control and just keep leading the way. But what I'm going to tell you here, my opinion, I expect GDP definitely to go down. I do not see it being a big beat. I don't see how it could, right? What have we been talking about? We've been talking about demand. We've been talking about consumer spending. We've been talking about consumer credit, consumer strength, all those. Those all have gone down, right? And that's directly affecting these earnings. But it seems like the market doesn't care too much about bad earnings, right? Again, sticking with the trend. That's why we have the trend. That's why we understand the trend. That's why we look at the trend, because it is our friend. And so when we're looking here, we just have to identify and just keep it simple. There's no reason to overcomplicate. If you make a lower low, then you can be bearish. And really that lower low for me is going to be breaking back below 11.4. I wouldn't even consider 11.6. Possibly. We can get into that. But you're going to see more of an established level, which in my opinion is right here, the 11.4 region. So that's what you want to see, a lower low there to be bearish. But I'm telling you right now, based on ES, like I said, you're getting a little bit of selling to the end of the day. You probably should. People taking off risk at the end of the day, going into some big things happening, right? So that's where you're at. Again, if you mount this 40.29 again, I am telling you, if you can get back above 40.29, I really believe you're going to get a 4100 test near term. I think it's highly possible. Next week, we really have the big earnings. We have, I think, Apple and some of the big names really coming out there. So we'll have a lot more to be going on as we look there. Now, again, a few of the other things here. Going into VIX. Again, you're still just sitting here doing nothing, making lower highs. TLT caught my attention. If we're looking at yesterday, a lot of people were saying, well, Tyler, TLT was going down. We were going down the past few days. We saw a little bit of dip here. TLT, you are bouncing right back. Even on this downside, TLT has continued to go up. Red flag for bears, in my opinion. TLT should be going down if you're bearish, okay? Personal opinion, what I'm looking at there. The yield inversion, in my opinion, yields still going down. The 10-year versus the 30-year, one of our biggest tools, right? You're at 95.8, but yields keep coming down closer to 3%, right? The 30-year, the 10-year, they're all dropping, okay? That's what's happening right now, right? US30, 10-year, 30-year yield, always coming down, right? Rejecting off of 4%, looking to come down further. DXY, everyone's talking about DXY. Now, again, I am not using DXY to exemplify any strength in the market. I'm not doing that. Because a lot of other factors, Turkish lira, they're trying to devalue the dollar right now. That was the news last night. Bank of Japan, we've talked about them. We talked about China, the petrodollar, all those. So that's why you're not seeing the dollar represent what's happening with the market right now. I don't think it's the best viewpoint to look at. But I will say, if this level breaks the 101, I think it could signify some upside potentially on the market as well. Again, and the dollar keeps getting slapped. I don't see it going up right now because we're actually probably going to start lowering rates to 0.25 most likely. That was my estimate since November, and I kind of still stick by that, viewpoint. Now, stocks I'm liking. Again, obviously we went over that comment earlier. He's not liking chips. I still like chips. What's happening here? Nvidia. Now, Nvidia looks beautiful. I mean, if you look at this on a 4-hour time frame, I can't think of a chart that looks much better. I'm going to tell you that now. If you can get above locally 196, 195, you have a lot of room up to 211, 210. Nvidia still looks extremely strong. This is what I encourage you to do though. When you're looking at these charts, yes, if you're day trading, you need to look at small time frames. But to get the bigger picture, you got to zoom out. The 4-hour, 1 day, 1 week. You got to look at where you're at. A lot of you guys are only looking at the 1 minute. All these guys commenting, right? This is all ego right here. Right? We're not here to be the best. We are here to be the best, but we're not here to, walk around and act like we're the best and pompous in front of everyone. That's not the goal here. You're not going to hear me bragging about X, Y, and Z. That's not what's going to happen here on the channel. My goal is to help you overall succeed, right? I want to see your gains on Twitter. I don't care to see you saying you're right or wrong here. No one cares, okay? No one cares. This is not, a dick measuring contest, right? I don't care. No one cares, right? No one cares if I'm winning. No one cares if you're winning, right? People only care if they're winning. That's the fact of the matter. So looking at Nvidia, you still look strong. Now, personally, my favorite right now, again, I was liking QCOM, but I posted this on Twitter so you all know. AMD, man. AMD, you know how they say you are not him? Let me tell you, AMD is him. So you have that 2-hour bull flag playing out. Again, on Twitter, I always recommend you follow. What do we post here earlier on AMD right here 2 hours ago? Got that clear bull flag forming 73.8. What happened later? Posted in Discord. Everyone got those gains kicking in right there. Boom. What happened? We ran all the way to 75. Nice move on AMD. I personally think if NVIDIA starts to run, AMD's a lagging one. I think this could easily start pushing to 80. And if it gets over 80, clean up on aisle 3 because this thing has a lot of room to go also. But what am I telling you right now? What do I say every day? Stay liquid, people. I think that's the number one rule for day traders right now. End of the day, just stay liquid, trade what the market gives you. As of right now, what do we know? We're still in an uptrend. You still have a lot of strength here, okay? Looking at Apple, right? Apple, you started breaking down. You bounced, got right back above 141. You're holding it right now. You want to see continuation here. And if we look at Apple, what are you going to notice here? Again, it's not just me saying it. You got a little bit of flags kind of forming to like the downside breaking here. But what's happening on the longer term scheme? What's really taking place here, right? It's looking like Apple's trying to flag and potentially get the push back up to the upside. Again, you're going to start noticing it on the broad market. But again, what do we need to see? We see GDP come out just flat. I think it'll do it for you. Tesla, I don't think anything bad's going to be announced. I actually think they're going to announce some good news with how they remodeled their pricing structure. I think they have a lot of upside from that, and I think their sales numbers are going to be great also. That's my viewpoint of the market. That's what I'm looking at. And for all the people that said Microsoft was going to go down tremendously, it dropped and came right back ultimately to where it closed at yesterday, and it came down just a little bit at the end of the day. Funny how the market works. It's not a one-day winning strategy. It's about actually understanding what's happening in the market, guys. It's not happening on the 1, 2, 3, 4 minute, 5 minute charts, okay? You guys are viewing the big picture. That's what I try to paint in your head every single day. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one, traders.